Everyone thinks the space race is about who plants their boots on the moon first. It is not. While the whole world stares at launch pads and counts down rockets, China is quietly building something way bigger than a flag. The gas stations, the factories, the shipping lanes of an economy that does not run on Earth at all. And here is the unsettling part. By the time most people clock what is happening, the most valuable real estate in the solar system might already be spoken for. So let me show you what China is actually doing up there, and why it has almost nothing to do with the race everyone is watching. Start with the thing nobody wants to say out loud. Winning space stopped being about flags and footprints a long time ago. Apollo already did that. 12 men walked on the moon, planted flags, grabbed some rocks, and came home. Incredible. Economically, it was worth almost nothing. Nobody made money, nobody stayed. The price today is a completely different thing. People throw around numbers like $1 trillion for the space economy, and some go way higher. And the boring little idea underneath all of it is this: whoever owns the infrastructure owns the profit, not the explorers, the landlords. China figured that out years before anyone else was even thinking about it. And how they did it is the part that should make you sit up. Most countries that go to the moon obsess over the landing, the dramatic touchdown, the headline. China treated the whole thing like a machine. They were assembling one bolt at a time. Look at the order. First, just orbit and map. No astronauts, no drama, only data. Then sharper maps, better landing sites. Then an actual soft landing with a rover. Then the hard one, the far side, where you cannot even talk to Earth directly. So they parked a relay satellite in exactly the right spot to bounce the signal around. Then sample return. Grab the soil, launch it back off the surface, dock in lunar orbit, fly it home. Look at any one of those on its own, and it seems modest. A rover here, a probe there. But that is the trick. None of it got wasted. Every mission taught them one more skill they would need to live up there for good. Mapping, landing, talking, digging, returning. They were not collecting trophies. They were stacking abilities. And while everyone else clapped politely at each little milestone, the machine just kept getting bigger. So what's the machine for? Here's where it gets real. Down at the lunar South Pole, there are craters so deep and so permanently dark that sunlight hasn't touched the bottom in billions of years. It drops below -170 degrees Celsius down there, colder than the surface of Pluto. And inside that cold, scientists think there is water. Ancient ice, trapped over eons from comet and asteroid impacts, frozen in place because it could never escape. Now you're probably thinking, who cares about ice? Here's who. Because water in space isn't just water. Split it apart and you get oxygen, the air astronauts breathe. And you get hydrogen, one of the most powerful rocket fuels we've ever made. Put those two back together and you've got fuel, which means the moon stops being a destination and becomes a gas station. And that one idea changes everything. Right now, launching anything off Earth is brutally expensive because our gravity is enormous. Every drop of fuel a Mars-bound ship needs has to be hauled up out of the deepest gravity well humans can launch from. But the moon's gravity is 1/6 of ours. Make fuel on the moon and a ship heading deeper into the solar system doesn't have to carry everything from Earth. It tops up at the moon and keeps going. Whoever runs that depot basically gets a toll booth on the entire solar system. But there's a catch. You can't sell fuel you can't reach. And you can't run a depot you can't build. Which brings us to the part that's even smarter. Shipping building materials from Earth to the moon is almost a joke. Every wall, every landing pad, every radiation shield has to survive launch, cross nearly 400,000 kilometers, and land in one piece. Do that at scale and you go broke. So China's plan is to stop shipping the heavy stuff at all, make it there instead. They call it in situ resource utilization. Mouthful. It just means use what's already on the ground. Take lunar soil, that gray dusty regolith, and bake it. Focus sunlight through a giant concentrator, heat the dirt to around 1400 to 1500 degrees, hot enough to melt it, and turn it into solid brick. China literally wants to 3D print structures out of moon dust, layer by layer. Landing pads so rockets don't kick up clouds of razor-sharp grit. Walls to block radiation. Roads. Eventually, whole habitats printed onto the surface before a single human shows up. And they're already testing whether those bricks survive space, bolting samples to the outside of their station to see how they hold up against vacuum and radiation. That's not someday talk. That's hardware in orbit right now. And the station itself, Tiangong, is not just a science lab. It is a beachhead. Think about what a permanent presence in orbit actually buys you. Proof you can keep humans alive up there long term. A training ground. And a recruiting tool. China has openly invited other countries aboard. The first foreign astronaut from Pakistan is already in training. They are signing partners onto their lunar base too. And here is the thing about being the one who builds the platform. You get to write the manual. You set the standards everyone else has to follow. Own the platform, own the rules of the platform. And that's the part that should genuinely give you pause, because a base on the moon can't run on solar alone. The lunar night lasts 2 weeks, 14 straight days of darkness and cold, brutal enough to kill electronics. So China and Russia have signed on to study putting an actual nuclear reactor on the moon sometime in the early 2030s to power the base straight through that night. Permanent power means permanent presence. And permanent presence next to those frozen craters means whoever's parked there controls the most valuable resource off-world. Now here's the uncomfortable truth nobody likes saying. There is no clear law for who owns lunar resources. None. The treaties we have are vague and decades old, written for a time when nobody could actually use the moon for anything. So the first mover doesn't just get there first. The first mover gets to decide what the rules even are. Set up the depot, build the base, write the standards, invite your allies, and suddenly, you're not asking permission. You're the one granting it. That's the whole game. That's what China is quietly building while everyone else watches the countdowns. And I know what you are thinking, because it is the obvious one. The US has more rockets. SpaceX is years ahead. Starship can throw more mass into orbit than anything China has. And honestly, all true. On raw launch power, America is ahead, maybe way ahead. But here's the flip. Launch capacity isn't the same thing as an economy. Being able to drive somewhere faster than anyone else does not mean you own the town when you get there. America is optimizing the cost of getting off the ground. China is building the thing you arrive at, the fuel, the factories, the bases, the demand side of the whole equation. Two completely different games. And only one of them ends with you owning the infrastructure everyone else has to use. So step back and look at the whole picture. The mapping, the far side landings, the water hunt, the brick experiments, the reactor study, the station, the partners. None of it was random. It was one plan, assembled so patiently and so quietly. The world mistook it for a string of small science projects. But it was never about the science. It was about the supply chain. The next great economy might not get built on Earth at all. And the country that owns the gas stations, the factories, and the shipping lanes up there does not have to win a race. They just have to finish building before anyone else realizes the race was even on. So here is my real question for you. Is the West actually building an economy up there? Or are we just building better rockets to show up to a moon that has already been claimed? Drop your take in the comments. I genuinely want to hear it. And if you want to follow where this race actually goes, not the one on the launch pads, the real one, subscribe and stick around.